to offer. People just need to take the time and listen because they could learn a lot. It's from just your average Jane and Joe perspective, but we make up the majority of Americans. And I think we do have a lot to say, and they don't want to listen because we don't have that piece of paper or the clout or the rank for them to even give us consideration. So I appreciate this platform. Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you, Marie. That was beautiful. And to thank you, the next episode, this is episode 30, so episode 31, I'm going to schedule a public hanging to make you happy.
Right on. Woo!
He'll be a homeless guy. No one will miss him. But it'll be free.
Sadly, that is.
So no Slipknot is what you're saying.
Poor John.
Never mind.
Where do I go with this one?
All right. Well, okay.
Just
Lone Ranger joke.
Yeah, we have terrible jokes. All right.
No,
so,
I get it. Marines are just as bad.
Oh, we should have a joke off. We can joke each other off all night.
The Circle Joke Podcast.
All right.
I'll come if there's crayons to eat,
There we go. We got our first crayon joke. All right, this is good. Hi, everybody. This is John Koenig back with Real Veteran News. Here with 3 veteran friends. We got a little bit of branch diversity here because our newest guest, John Jackson, is a Marine veteran. So it's not all Army people this time, which is good. And I think, honestly, you're the first Marine been on the show. So that's also good, too. So we're going to introduce ourselves before we get into the topics and news of the week. But let's start with John Jackson, who is it's his first show.
Hey, my name is John Jackson. I live in Miami, Florida. I am a United States Marine Corps vet, veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom, where I did convoy security in El Anbar province. And I used to work on Democratic campaigns and work in politics, but I got burnt out from that. Currently work in the financial industry and detoxing from politics, you could say.
Not anymore. You're my liberal today. Better be feisty. All right. Maria's old school, so Ted's newer. So Ted, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Ted, former U.S. Army Ranger, retired down in the free state of Florida, and a unapologetic American.
All right. Marie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Marie, Army veteran, been out for like 30 days, technically. And Signal, worked at Department of State, Office of Cybersecurity, worked at an embassy overseas, and now I live in the beautiful state of Tennessee. And it's great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
All right. My name is John Koenig, also an Army Ranger, former and current data scientist, and I live in D.C. So let's go through the topics. So the first topic is Israel-Iran drama. Second is update on Trump versus Harris. Obviously, the debate is this week, which is important. Update of Ukraine. And then lastly, we're talking about Elon Musk, because Elon Musk's been in the news, and veterans like Elon Musk generally, probably not everyone, but he's been a newsmaker. So you want to get started?
Let's roll.
Okay, cool. We're going to start.
Already.
All right. First topic, Israel and Iran. We're talking about Hamas. Down in a 65-foot deep tunnel last week, 6 Israeli hostages, men and women, were shot in the back of the head on the order of Iran. And this was retaliation for the 2 assassinations the Israelis did. And what they're saying is that the response that we expected some kind of missile response or whatever, but last time they tried to do a missile response, all that shit got shot down mostly. Didn't really do too much. So they used effective propaganda machine. They seed division within Israel's population by killing these hostages, thereby inciting the liberals. Then you got these massive protests in Israel. Netanyahu's got political trouble, and it's just a mess. And so protests, they had a strike and everything too. So Iran's come up with this interesting strategy of sowing division in Israel among the people rather than like launching a barrage or something like that. There's a lot of other stuff and dynamics going on here, but John, what do you think?
I think that war is a really, really tough thing for a lot of people to understand. I think everyone on this panel understands that civilian casualties are a part of war. I think that wars become real unpopular real quick because people start just feeling the hurt and the consequences of certain actions. And I think it's a difficult, very difficult situation that a lot of people act like it's just simple. We got to do this, 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 and that. It's really not that simple. But I agree that Netanyahu is losing popularity. I have friends who are pro-Israel, and I know IDF veterans who are not pro-Netanyahu. And a lot of folks think that Netanyahu wants to keep the war going so he can stay in office. He has very little incentive for peace and ceasefire. So you got to wonder if, for the sake of those hostages, the families of those hostages, is Benjamin Netanyahu the best person to have at the wheel? I don't think he is, but he's iron. That guy's politically Teflon. He's a hard guy to take down. He's great at building coalitions within their legislature. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot how to pronounce
Knesset.
Knesset, yes, Knesset. Absolutely. I was gonna butcher that, but yeah, he's politically Teflon.
Looking at this from a historical standpoint, John, you and I talked a little bit about this a week or two ago. I personally think it just needs to play out. I think it would have already played out if pressure wouldn't have been put on Netanyahu to slow it down. I honestly don't see a solution to this. It's either one side or the other has to give in, and then the other side feels it won. If he makes a deal for the hostages, that just reinforces their strategy of taking hostages. If he bombs the heck out of them, he loses world opinion. I would ask anyone who has strong opinions on this, what would your solution be if you were in a position to make a decision?
We mentioned the hostages and the leverage, right? So what they're saying now is that Hamas has essentially determined that the hostages don't provide serious leverage against the Israelis because they got Netanyahu in charge, and there's a lot of Israelis that want the hostages back. But Netanyahu's, in pretty firm control right now. Like I said at the beginning of this, you got to write those hostages off. Like, you might save a few of them here or there, maybe one of them like runs away or something, but like most of them are dead essentially. And then the top Israelis essentially knew that, but they had to like keep that under wraps, and they had to make the efforts to do the rescues and everything, because this big rescue they did about 2 weeks ago where they rescued 4 of them and then they killed like 270 Palestinians, which pissed them off, obviously. That kind of set this up because they're like, you're not rescuing these because we just shot them in the back of the head and we're just going to leave them here until you find them. All these things are kind of dovetailing. They're kind of like responding. It's like, we do a rescue and then you shoot them in the back of the head and whatever. But like, these hostages are essentially unlikely to survive, in my opinion.
I think you're correct. I think it is one of the most hostile war zones in modern history. If you go on either side, there is, and I'm not even saying this in a bigoted term, in a bigot percent, there's a legit hatred of those on the other side. And it's complicated. It's not always necessarily, oh, they're anti-Semitic or they're Islamophobic or don't like Arabs. Or it is a complicated history, an environment. You're growing up in an environment where essentially one side is viewed as the enemy. I think it's just not a good situation for peace right now. I think that it, like Ted said, it's going to play out, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
So, Marie, they're saying that Netanyahu is in favor of an open-ended occupation of Gaza. What do you think about that? Stay there forever?
I agree. I think it's in perpetuity. He's going to take it. He's going to take all of Israel, all of Palestine. It's a to the death thing, and they're not going to release that information. It's like UFOs. They're not going to specifically say to the mainstream media, there are UFOs, but they're not going to live. They're not going to release them. This isn't how Hamas plays. They have an end goal, and that's to stop Israel. They won't stop until the last person is dead. That is their train of thought. That's what they want. They want their land back. It's always been Palestinian land. Israel has been a nation of people, not of land. And no matter where Israel goes, it's the people that go. It's always been that way from the beginning of days. to present day. We gave them land because we were trying to be gracious and give them sovereignty and safety, but it was at the expense of the Middle East, and that's Jordan and Syria and Lebanon and Turkey and Palestine and the Levant, if you will. Hamas isn't going to stop. They're not going to release any of the hostages. It's going to be to the death. Iran is going to back them, and obviously Russia is going to back Iran, and perhaps China will get involved to back Russia and Iran and Palestine. So I don't see any way that this could ever be stopped unless we turn it to glass, and I don't think we're going to do that.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia corridor, which is a thin, designated area of land in between the Egyptian border and southern Gaza, which is important for Hamas because they've got tunnels under there, and that's how they infiltrate and they bring supplies in. The Israelis want to control that, or they say they want to control that area so that they can prevent Hamas from re-upping. The way I see it with the Philadelphia corridor is that Netanyahu's using it as a poison pill in the negotiations. So he's like, well, we got to have the Philadelphia corridor, or, and then Hamas is like, you got to be fucking kidding me. This isn't happening. And so they're deadlocked over this Philadelphia corridor and whatever. But tactically, right? And Ted, I want to ask you this, right? Tactically, if the Israelis pull out of Gaza, but then they keep that thin strip of land, and they have Israeli soldiers all up and down that, I don't know how long it is, but it's miles. And then they have the Egyptians on one side and the Gaza people on the other with the new upgraded Hamas weapons. They're saying sitting ducks. So it's not even realistic that they hold this Philadelphia corridor. They have to occupy all of Gaza, basically, if they want to do what they want to do. What do you think, Ted?
I'd throw this question out. All things considered, this moment, who would the Palestinians be better off under, Hamas or the Israelis? I'm asking you, John, or either John or Marie.
Well, there's visceral hatred. Okay, so Hamas is going to do what they can to take care of those people. They use them as human shields, but they're all in it together, right? It's all a big family, and they're all resisting the Israelis to some degree or another, and they want to keep their land.
In order for Israeli occupation to work of that area, you could get rid of Hamas and a new radical Islamic jihadist organization would form if you do not weed out that ideology, if you don't win the ideological battle. I think that's the kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room. In order for Islamic people of Islamic faith to live in a Jewish state, you would need a more westernized form of Islam, which does exist. But in a place like Gaza, in order for them to be less vulnerable to falling for that ideology, there needs to be economic development. They need to be less vulnerable, less desperate to fall for that. It's basically like gang recruitment. Gangs don't get recruited in neighborhoods that are doing well in America. It's always in poor areas. It's generally poor people who need something to kind of grab onto. And so I think you economically develop, if Israel commits to economic development of that area, an occupation could work, because then they would be more likely to embrace a westernized form of Islam.
Jordan is a westernized state of Islam. They're about half Christian and half Islamic. Unfortunately, they took such an influx of the Syrian refugees. I was there. They just can't take anymore. They are so overburdened by the influx. The schools, there's not enough room for all the kids. And so, of course, they're not going to let the Jordanian children not be educated to make way for the Syrian refugees. So it's very, very difficult. And it's one of those nations that's not exactly rich, but not exactly poor as well. So I understand what you're saying. And I agree. I just wish Jordan could take them on. It is a beautiful, excellent country run by very good people, in my opinion.
But they want to keep their land. They don't want to leave. They want to keep their land.
Yes, of course they want to keep their land. So I have Palestinian friends because I lived overseas. And how they explained it to me is, look, the Israelis have just been coming in, knocking on our doors and kicking us out for years. We've owned this land for hundreds of years. My family, I own this land. And the IDF are outside of the door saying, you're leaving. You're leaving. And they go in, they take their stuff, they pull it out, they put it all in front of the home, and they say, you've moved. And that's it. And, this is their land. This is where they've lived, their families, generation after generation. And the IDF says, no, we're taking it. They've been infiltrating slowly over many years that they've been going through this. And if you open up the Bible and you look at all the maps, it doesn't say Israel. It says Palestine. The entire thing is Palestine. And I've gone back a couple of decades to see, where is Israel? It doesn't say Israel. But now if you go Google map it, it doesn't say Palestine at all. It says Israel, the entire plot of land. That whole thing is Israel. I was shocked to see that the other day. No, I do agree with you, the corridor. Egypt basically says, no, we don't. They can't take any more. They have enough refugees from all of the surrounding Middle Eastern countries, and they don't have the capacity to take people, not for education, not for employment. I'm sure if the U.S. were to say, hey, Egypt, we'll give you $87 million a week, they would probably take the Egyptian or take the Palestinians, but
I don't think they bring in the Palestinians. Let's destabilize their country. Like,
they'll take some. They'll take some for
Palestinians.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree.
Well, the Jordanians did it in the 60s, and the thanks they got was Amman was burned by Palestinians during uprisings. So, both of my interpreters on my last job were Jordanians, and they both absolutely despise Palestinians. In fact, one of them almost got in a fist fight with an Egyptian one day because the Egyptian said his mother was a Palestinian. Just like that, said your mother's a Palestinian, and fists were curled and hands were thrown, and it's like, stop.
That's so Middle East.
Yeah,
it's kind of the rhetorical question or semi-rhetorical. Oh, why won't Saudi take them? Why won't Qatar take them? Why won't Jordan? Why won't Syria? Why won't somebody take? They're stuck. They're stuck with what they've got. They've got to figure it out. And the course they've been on, the course they're on, is not going to figure it out. There's tens of thousands of Arab Muslims that live in Israel peacefully. I think in the Knesset, there's been some representation voted in. It's kind of like, hey, you know what? I got it. But in order to move on and live in peace, if they would have used the nearly $6 billion they were given to do something other than build tunnels and missiles, maybe things wouldn't be like they are right now. And that's Hamas stealing the governance over Gaza, the last peace deal. They were voted in, but then they immediately went apeshit with what they're doing. Where's the money that we gave them? What did they use it for?
Oh, weapons.
Well, yeah. What's a few $1 billion out of my pocket, right?
So we're moving on to the next topic, which is Trump-Harris election. Obviously, the debate is next week. Very important. Trump doesn't do a lot of debate prep, and then he's been doing town halls, which is kind of his way of getting juiced up for the debate. Kamala Harris is obviously super conservative and is just study, locked away, doing excessive debate prep because they're just trying to survive this. Trump made headlines by, he did that interview with Elon Musk, that long form interview, and then they were flirting with each other. And then now Trump wants Elon Musk to run a government efficiency commission that would run an audit of the entire federal government and implement drastic reforms. I have a bunch of the other stuff that him and Harris are kind of teeing up as policies going into this debate. But John, what do you think about the Trump-Elon economic plan?
It would certainly lead to GDP growth, but for who? The question is, we all know that just because the economy grows, that doesn't mean it's going to help everyday Americans. The economy's been growing right now, and there's grievances about the economy. So I think the question is who is it going to help? I'm really tired of both sides of the aisle kind of touting good economic numbers when mainstream America is not feeling it. And so I think Kamala Harris, even, I'm a Harris supporter, but I think they need to better illustrate how their economic plans are going to help everyday Americans. Because, Trump wants corporate tax cuts. Corporate tax cuts, yes, they're going to make corporate balance sheets look better, make corporations more profitable, but it doesn't always trickle down. So I think that if this election's about the economy, explain how that's going to help your average middle class, working class family, how that's going to help your average college student who is recent college grad, who is just not faring as well as they would like to.
I like a lot of the proposals, especially lowering the corporate tax rate because you can hire more employees. You're not paying that much out into taxes. I think it also incentivizes corporations to be in America. We're not paying other people, other countries, essentially, to create the product and then ship it back. Or we gather all of the goods and we ship it over to China and they put it together and then they ship it back. Why are we doing this? It's absolutely ridiculous. But I think that that's one of the things that I really do support is lowering the corporate tax rate. It was once at 35%. I think it says in the article that, now we're at 21% and they want to lower it to 15%. That's a good incentivization for corporations to remain here in America and hire U.S. employees. And having Elon as his, the economic advisor, was that the title he was trying to give him?
No, he's going to be in charge of the Government Efficiency Commission that doesn't exist.
Efficiency Commission. That's the one. I really, really want one because we have a lot of waste and fraud. Just as a quick example, with the Secret Service and the money that they receive and watching the congressional hearing, or if you want to call it a congressional hearing with Matt Gaetz and so forth, and they had Eric Prince on there and Dan Bongino and Ian Schrader or Schaefer, I think it was. And they were discussing the way that the Secret Service, how much money they have and how many people they put forth. And Blackwater could have very easily done the same exact job for a third of the cost.
That's what Eric Prince always says.
It is a reality, though. You and I have worked for our government. We see people just sitting there with their phones, going out for 2-hour lunches and coming back and then leaving for the day and charging the taxpayers, because that's who pays them to do their job, saying that they worked a full 8-hour day when we know for a fact they only worked 5.
Yeah, but there's no work to do anyway. So it's like, why even be there?
Exactly. So quit creating all of the departments and agencies and sub-agencies and sub-departments and, all these little tiny agencies and departments so that we can manage more people and we can help you. We can help you. We just need your money.
But that's the grift. They need all the little jobs.
Yeah. And it's disgusting and it shouldn't be like that. And yeah, I think Elon is like a Trump where he's going to say, you're fired. You serve no purpose. Goodbye. And that would be fantastic to see. That's like a public hanging to me.
Okay. Fantastic. You enjoy public hangings?
So I would have to add to that. I don't think everything she's saying is bad. I think that
the public hangings.
Wasteful spending is not something most Americans want, but I would object to Elon Musk taking that job. I don't agree with the conservative notion. If you're great at business, you're great at government. They just fundamentally work a little different as a system. Cutting your business budget is not the same as closing down a military base and consolidating it with another military base. There's a multiplier effect of that. So I doubt Elon Musk even understands that. Why not get a conservative budget expert who's got experience in balancing budgets and cutting budgets? I'm not opposed to the idea of something like that. I just wouldn't want Elon Musk.
Yeah, you might want to get some expert in abuse or whatever, fraud, waste, and abuse. But the reason why he's doing this is it's like a brand play, and he's getting attention by being like, "Yo, I'm gonna put Elon up."
Yes.
Then he's tying their brands together. Elon's endorsed him. Like, you've got this triumvirate of Trump, Robert Kennedy, Elon. Nowhere in there is JD Vance. JD Vance is off, playing in the field somewhere or whatever. Like, Kennedy's got to come in.
He's frolicking.
He's got bear hug Elon Musk as much as he can because the Democrats have all like the heavy hitters on their side. Trump wants to take the corporate tax rate down from 21 down to 15. Harris wants to raise it from 21 to 28. If you raise the corporate tax rate, corporate profits are going to go low. Stock prices are going to go lower. That hits people's 401ks and stuff like that. Those are like the wealthy Americans, people who have like a lot of money in 401ks, people that are investors. She also wants to raise the capital gains tax from to 28%, and I think also from 21, and that's definitely going to hit rich people. So Kamala's like saying she's going to raise these taxes essentially on wealthy Americans. And the other thing that I thought that was really important was that Trump is essentially promising to bring the gas price below $2 a gallon through cutting regulations and just increasing the amount of drilling for oil. Obviously, the Democrats are not going to do that. So if you get the Democrats, if you get Kamala Harris, the gas is still going to be expensive, and then that ties into the inflation.
My thought on that goes back to working with the people I worked with in my last job. They felt that men, all men, of course, true Muslims would never support a woman to be the American president. They actually like Trump a lot, contrary to what the media would say. Now, these are not Arab Americans, Muslim Americans. They were Emiratis, and a few other countries mixed in. All I would suggest to everyone is take a look at what you think is best for America, not what you think is best for you, because that may not be what's best for America. Now, do I have a side in the Middle East? That would be like picking a side in a schoolyard fight. It's kind of hard to decide whose side you would be on because there's so much going on over there and it's so complicated. We could argue about the control of the approaches into the Suez Canal. We could argue about control of oil. We could argue about differences in the two religions, which go back to when Muhammad the Prophet died and who he left power to. I can talk about all that. The Ottoman Empire, the fallout after World War I, as Marie brought up, the separation of the Levant after 300 years of Ottoman rule, the Sykes-Picot Accords, and on and on and on and on. It's just so complicated. I don't really see where it's all going to end. Probably won't in my lifetime. But as far as offering, he's kind of a hypocrite. He's offering certain small groups things for them specifically to get votes, and then saying the other side's doing the same. I argue we need to be doing what's best for America, not what's best for small percentages. Now, granted, I understand how our republic works on the concept of democracy, but sometimes hard decisions, sometimes you don't take the cookie jar down and pass it around to the fat kids because they all want it.
So from a strategy perspective, it makes total sense what Trump is doing. Arab Americans, and even Muslim Americans in general, are more pro-Trump than Jewish people are. Jewish people are the second most liberal voting bloc to Black Americans. It's just the reality. And so while one side might be a little different on the issue, it would actually make more sense for Trump to court those groups as far as votes concerned, and especially in a battleground state like Michigan. For Kamala Harris, it makes sense for her to be Zionist because Jewish people are a very democratic group, and they're involved in democratic politics every kind of step of the way. And so I think you come down to South Florida, a lot of the prominent Democrats here are Jewish. Every party kind of has constituencies. A misnomer is that Arabs or Muslims are Democratic or liberal, and that's not the case. It's more like 50-50. And so I think Trump actually has a better chance of getting gains with Arabs and Muslims than he does with Jewish people, who are some Jewish people are almost as staunchly Democrat as African Americans.
The state of Israel owes its existence to the Democrats. When they declared their independence in 1948, who was the first country to recognize Israel and why? It was Truman, who was running a very tight re-election campaign. He needed the electoral votes. You can discuss history all the way up to today.
It's a totally different Democrat Party, though. That's...
Well, I'm talking from the history perspective of if Eisenhower would have been in office, would he have recognized Israel so fast? It was within hours that Truman recognized the state of Israel's Declaration of Independence.
They'd already worked it out behind the scenes,
Oh yeah, but it was for electoral votes.
Right.
All of our elections, foreign policy always comes into our elections, and poor decisions on foreign policy. That's why Iran has the first largest F-14 fleet in the world. And I'm getting on a tangent because I like talking this stuff. Nixon needed that. He needed electoral votes from the Northeast.
Go ahead, stretch your legs, Ted. Stretch them legs.
I need a drink.
One last topic here for the election. I want to do it quick. We'll just go around. So on Megyn Kelly's show on Sirius XM, 4 National Guard vets have served with Democrat vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, called him a military imposter, a coward, absolutely no integrity, habitual liar, and they say that he abandoned 500 soldiers that he was supposed to lead in combat in 2005 before he decided to run for Congress. First off, let's do John. Do you think Tim Walz is a coward, and why?
I wouldn't characterize it as that. I think he was wrong for mischaracterizing his military record. It's pretty hard to erase 24 years of service, but he should have been more clear about his military record. Did he do something in support of Operation Enduring Freedom? Yes. But did he actually deploy on the ground to Afghanistan? No. He probably should have made that more clear. Probably should have made more clear that, he rose to the rank of Sergeant Major but didn't get to retire as a sergeant major. I think he should have made that more clear. But in politics, people often omit the stuff that they don't want people to know. And I think that omission got him in trouble. I think stolen valor is a bit extreme, but I think it is there was some dishonesty. And if I were Tim Walz, I would have apologized for misspeaking so he could pivot instead of completely pivoting and saying, I'm proud of my service. That's how I would have advised him to handle the situation. Hey, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Sometimes us politicians do it. No excuse.
It's bullshit. You just said he was in the military for 24 years, and then you said he misspoke. He's a congressman. He didn't fucking misspeak. He
knows.
Purposely put this shit out there and was like, I was a command sergeant major, command sergeant major, command sergeant major. Said it 100 fucking times. Like, come on.
Right, he actually was a command sergeant major. He just did not retire as one. I think he should have been honest about that. I don't think there's any excuse about that. But I'm telling you, it's not so bad that he couldn't have recovered. He could have just simply apologized for not being truthful, and he could still, it wouldn't take away his 24 years of service.
Okay, Ted, weren't you a sergeant major?
I was. Say again.
Would any sergeant major that you knew or whatever have made the same mistake, honest mistake? I mean, this is not an honest mistake, right?
Now, it's not an honest mistake, in my opinion. Understanding the system, having been in the system, understanding how command works in the senior NCO rank. The biggest reason he retired as a master sergeant is because he did not finish the non-resident sergeant's major course. And I know a few people that happened to because they were overseas and they just failed to meet the deadline.
He wasn't overseas, that's for sure.
Now, as far as leaving his unit, I wasn't there, so I can't say. But the analogy I've used, a few people have asked me, as I said, related to sports. Great all the way through the season, throws the championship purposely. And he left his unit. That was a decision he made to leave. They got the notification. I don't know how he could have done it because typically when you're notified, it's in the conventional world, you get orders and your stop loss the same day. So he must have known about it ahead of time and decided to retire, put in his retirement, got it approved before they got orders. Because once you get those orders, you can't. Or, as his commander said, it was no great loss, so we let him go. I can almost look the other way on a lot of things and say, 24 years of service, thank you, all that. But I agree with them when they say he had soldiers that were looking up to him. They all deployed, and he went away. To me, with 4 deployments, 2 to Afghanistan, it's kind of like, dude, really? You were a senior on his coin, his personal coin he uses as Congress. It had the command sergeant major rank on it.
It's not a mistake.
No.
Well,
no.
Did he wear that rank? Yes. Could he put it on the coin? I would argue yes. But it's kind of tasteless to do that.
Yeah, especially when you ditched your troops, your soldiers. You're like, I was a command sergeant major. I was at home fucking my wife while they were in Iraq. Like, come on. You're passing out these fucking coins?
I had 6 months' time as a command sergeant major, but I was never wore that rank. I don't go around and tell people, hey, I was a command sergeant major. I mean, I just did technically, but I served in the position with sergeant major rank, not with the Oakleafs making me a command sergeant major. I chose not to go into the program for personal reasons. So really, when I walked away and retired, I was a sergeant major overseas. I deployed as a sergeant major, just not a command sergeant major. But that's a program. When you go into it, there's a commitment that comes with it. It's a 2-year commitment that you agree to. It's kind of hard to get out of. So there's just a lot of things about it that are like, eh.
You want to jump in?
I want to clarify with y'all that I do agree that it was wrong. I'm not going to like semantics. It was wrong. I want to acknowledge it. It was wrong for him to misrepresent his military record. I'm not disputing that.
Thank you. But in the interest of time, we got to move on to Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine. We're going to go fast. I just want quick from each of you guys on 2 different topics. First one is Putin says he's willing to conduct peace talks. He wants negotiations to be brokered by China, Brazil, or India. In my opinion, it looks like China is probably going to negotiate at the end of this war. What do you guys think about peace talks, starting with Marie?
Well, I wish they'd get on with it already because this is ridiculous. They're reaching 700,000 Ukrainian men, death toll. It's absolutely disgusting. There's no way for them to win this, and it's all about money laundering. I won't ever sway from that. NATO should not have been trying to get up against the border, the doorstep of Russia.
No, I don't think you can trust anything Vladimir Putin says. He is a master of deception. I can't pretend to be an expert on him. I think I would like to hear from a Russia expert, what exactly does Vladimir Putin mean when he says peace talks? Because he never exactly says straightforward what he's doing. That's not how he plays as a former KGB officer.
Right.
Yeah. Ted,
it's a long game.
I don't think they'll happen in the near term, but I think they do need to happen soon. The cost in blood is very high. The cost in treasure is very high also. And the West can't continue to pay for this war forever.
For me, I think obviously it all depends on the election. We'll see what happens. But I do think China will probably be the main broker here. All right. The next topic, we'll go in the same order quickly, is Kursk. We know that the Ukrainians pulled some troops. They invaded where the Russians weren't expecting in the Kursk region, although they were warned about it, but they took it. Putin's been pulling troops from other parts of Russia. They've refused to divert troops from the Ukraine, the larger Ukraine front, especially in the east, where it is their main effort, right? They're trying to punch through, get as much land as they can in the east and everywhere along the front. Though the Ukrainians had their tactical victory where they took over this land, they humiliated the Russians, they're causing some problems. The Russians were like, hey, Russia's big. Eventually we're going to bring in some guys to fuck you up. But right now we're not diverting our frontline troops. We're winning. We're going to keep pounding you. We're going to keep taking land. And so the Ukrainians are holding this land, and then the Russians are on the march. Some people are saying that the Kursk, it was a gamble and that it weakened the rest of the front lines and that those troops were needed in the east. So do you think, we'll start with Marie, do you think that the Ukrainian invasion was a mistake, or should they have kept those troops to play defense, or was it a good idea or whatever?
Yeah, I think they should have kept them to play defense because they're just losing more and more every day. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. There's no strategy to this. There is no strategy to this. I'm sorry. There's this. I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish by invading Russia. What is the purpose of this war? Because there clearly isn't one. Is it to enrich Zelensky and his family members so they can drive their Bugattis and buy mansions in Miami? Because that's the result of what we're seeing right now with all the money that we're sending them every single week. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think this is a stupid war that the U.S. was pressuring. There's a lot of things going on in Ukraine that a lot of people don't realize, and I'm not going to touch on all of them here, but perhaps we'll go back to never mind. Cancel, backspace, delete that. But I don't want you to get taken down again, so I'll just stop now.
Episode 1. Thanks, Marie. All right. So... All right, Ted, you're last.
I don't know where this is going to go, but I would add that the Vietnamese communists didn't win the Vietnam War in Saigon during Tet. They won it on the college campuses in America. That was the strategic goal, not the tactical goal. Until you can tell me what the tactical, operational, and strategic goals of the Kursk offensive actually are and support, I can't tell you that it was a bad idea or a good idea. The summer campaigning season is not over yet. They still have some time to maneuver. Somebody's going to blink, I think.
Yeah, stuff's going to keep happening as a serious war. So just my part of it is I think that I like all the offense. I like that it's bold move, caught them by surprise. They had some success. I like that they're hitting them in their weak area. You know, you want to strike where the enemy's weak, right? So I like all that. I said it in a previous show, but it's like, yeah, if you don't ever attack them, then they don't ever have to play defense, and then they can focus 100% on offense. So it's like in a football game, keep them honest, poke them a few times, like whatever. What I don't like about it is them holding land, because they have this, like, we're going to trade this little bit of land that Russia doesn't give a fuck about, for some land somewhere else in Ukraine. Like, this is fucking stupid. Those troops are needed somewhere else. If you're going to do stuff like this, come in, hit them, destroy a bunch of shit, do whatever you got to do, and then keep moving or come back and then regroup or something, hit them someplace else. I mean, they can't just like go in and like plop down, right? I mean, eventually 60,000 Russian troops are going to show up, and there's 1,000 of them, of the Ukrainians.
Right.
So it's like, this doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
But they're saying 3 brigades right now are committed, which would be about 10 to 12,000
Ukrainians. I thought it was
I've
1,000.
seen 3 brigades are committed to the Kursk offensive, which is about a division. But what I'm not seeing, and I do watch a lot of the footage, is I'm not seeing a lot of the mechanized equipment the West has given them. There's an M1 here or there. There's a Challenger. There's a Leopard. But they've got a lot more than that. How much of this is IO, where we're saying information operations, oh, they've committed their entire army to this. They've pulled forces from elsewhere for this. If I was on the Ukrainian side, I wouldn't tell the press that. But if the press wanted to believe that, I would certainly support them telling the Russians, yeah, they've thinned their lines, they've pulled their reserves, they've committed everything to this. And then I would commit everything at one point.
I don't see it ending well for Ukraine. I honestly don't. A lot of us have been underwhelmed by Russia. We thought Russia would have, squashed all this by now, would have just handled everything by now. This whole war has exposed Russia's weaknesses. You would think that Russia would have handled Ukraine a lot faster than this. Would have taken over Ukraine really fast as you'd expect a superpower. What we that rivals the United States would. But they've actually, Ukraine has put up a respectable resistance. But ultimately, I don't see it ending well for them.
So we're going to move on. Last topic, Elon Musk. 3 quick topics here. We'll just each say quickly what we think about them so we keep the show a little shorter here. First is Elon Musk launches Colossus AI at his new company, which is called X.AI, where I think his model is called the Grok model, and he's doing whatever his AI models is that he's doing. It's the biggest AI training cluster in the world. It's got 100,000 H100 GPUs from NVIDIA. He was bragging on X that it took them 122 days to build it from start to finish. And the reason why he's able to get this many GPUs is he used his position as Tesla's CEO to divert an order of GPUs from Tesla's order to this new AI company he started. And I don't know if it really hurts Tesla. The Tesla stock people were not that happy. And then also, it's like, this is just that one problem you have where you have one man that's the CEO of 2 companies and he owns, he's going to, play around like that. So, Marie, you like Elon, what do you think about Colossus AI?
It scares me. AI just scares me. I think it's fantastic, powerful, very powerful tool, but it goes way beyond what the average U.S. citizen would need it for. It's government level. It's just scary to me. The capabilities that are being created I really like what it can and what it can do for a government. I think it really needs to be reeled in and kept under wraps and not allowed to be just used and manipulated by anybody until it's fully understood.
You don't want Wild Wild West.
No.
I think AI is going to better society in many ways. We know there's obviously dangers to it, and even Elon Musk has expressed the need to regulate it. I don't think it should be a partisan matter that we regulate AI, because AI has the potential to cause a lot of harm to society because it can be deceptive, can create an illusion. But at the end of the day, AI is just predictive analytics on a whole nother level. Like many people say, I hope that we can come together as a nation and find a way to regulate it so it benefits society and it doesn't deceive society.
I think he's from Mars and he's just trying to get home.
Best answer.
I agree with it. Definitely, the way ahead will benefit, I hope, all of us. But I'm sure the first guy who came out with gunpowder, Alfred Nobel, this is going to benefit mankind. It will speed up mining. Okay, that's why we have the Nobel Peace Prize now.
The development of gunpowder was actually critical in the development of the Army Rangers. So, key enabling technology. Marines too.
Just so you know, Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment are now attending Space Command courses. So we do have the first Space Rangers in the regiment.
Yeah, Mason's been waiting for that shit.
Awesome.
Just for myself, AI's whatever. They want to regulate it, whoever. I don't care. I care about military AI. I still think they're lagging. Probably.
Yes.
I don't honestly know what the fuck is happening. They fired the CDAO guy, the guy who was in charge of it, or he quit because he was just sick of the bureaucrats. They got some logistics woman in there now. honestly have no fucking idea. They might be totally shitting the bed. But military AI is more important in my opinion than this. Elon Musk, Brazil, controversy over free speech. Judge, there's like a Supreme Court justice there in Brazil, Alexandre de Moraes, prohibits X in the country because he's on a crusade to clean up disinformation. And he's initiated a huge takedown campaign where they've taken down a lot of accounts on different social media sites that they think is misinformation, threatening to democracy, whatever he thinks. X, led by Elon Musk, ignored an order to block 140 accounts from this judge. The judge threatened to arrest the X's legal representative, which I guess is a lawyer. Elon pulls his staff out of the country. The judge uses the lack of physical presence in the country to block X in the country for 220 million people in Brazil. He also froze Starlink's assets. So it seems like this guy doesn't like Musk. He thinks he's a conservative. This is like a liberal judge in Brazil. And he's like just going after Elon Musk. So
the push behind this comes from our current elections, pushing the Brazilian leadership that they have down there, minimize as much as possible the footprint that X has. And if they can take it out of Brazil, one of the biggest nations, then easy peasy. Okay, next. The current leadership of Brazil that I have seen is not very intelligent. So I don't think that they're going to say, So if nobody's here from X, they have no physical presence. So therefore, that to me sounds like a constitutional lawyer who was once upon a time ago a community organizer. That's where that came from. And they're trying everything possible to shut Elon down, or X down, because Elon has shown that he is not part of their agenda, or whatever you want to call it, their narrative, their way of life. He has shown that I'm more diplomatic than you're giving me credit for. And I think everyone has a right to read, write, review, report, repost, anything that they want on the internet. So as long as it's not harming anyone, and people don't back that. So therefore X is bad. We must get rid of them, and Elon bad too.
All right. John, do you think Elon bad? And what do you think on Brazil?
I don't support necessarily censorship, but at the same time, I think that there should be consequences for certain types of hate speech. But I think generally the consequences are naturally played out. If there's a platform that allows a lot of hate speech, I think those consequences get played out naturally by, I guess, what you would call reputational risk. You will not appeal to a certain segment who does not like hate speech. So you're kind of limiting your potential as a business if you do allow that. I don't think the government necessarily needs to step in on stuff like that. I think as far as misinformation is concerned, a better education system is the best way of fighting misinformation.
Absolutely.
Ted, what do you think about Brazil?
Personally, I think it's a done deal. Judiciary said over. Elon Musk needs to move on. If I thought for a second it was about free speech in Brazil, I would probably be all behind him. But I think it's more about what's in the 200 million people's wallets. They do have a Fifth Amendment to their Constitution that guarantees free speech, but it's not exactly like ours. I think he needs to get out of their business. This is kind of reeks of colonialism, where we're telling another country how to do business versus supporting their leadership.
It's a minor political conflict. These are two men who view free speech very differently. Boeing had their Starliner that was stuck up there and was all messed up, and they left the astronauts. They brought it back down. It did land okay last week. But Elon, this will be quick, but Elon was talking shit about Boeing, saying that aircraft companies should not dominate space. Like space companies like SpaceX, his company, should work in space. Aircraft companies should work on aircraft. Just like when we had cars and then they invented airplanes, the airplanes weren't built by the car companies because they built cars, and then new airplane companies built airplanes. So he had a very nice tweet where he said this, and he kind of took a swipe at Boeing, and it was like, basically, don't come in my area, my AO.
You stay in your lane. You build airplanes, stick to the airplanes. Why don't you fix them while you're at it? Because there's a lot of problems with your airplane.
Stick with what you do best, Boeing.
Exactly. So I think Elon's right. Stay in your lane.
If it's Boeing, I ain't going.
A command sergeant major isn't going to let a little E5 run their office, unless you're 38 years old.
Unless you're Tim Walz.
But, you know,
The greatest command sergeant major in the history of the Minnesota National Guard.
Yeah, yeah. You know what you know. You do what you know. Don't come into my lane. This is what I do. If you're going to try and take over because you are a big bureaucrat for the U.S. government, then just go away because you're not needed here.
I just don't think Boeing is a very competent corporation. I think they have perverse incentives to do everything that they do. I think people's safety is not a priority for Boeing.
No.
So I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but I'm definitely a fan of attacking Boeing. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Boo, down with Boeing. Fuck Boeing.
I'm curious, though, how many retired admirals or command sergeants major are on the board of directors of Boeing?
150.
There's 0 command sergeant majors, I can tell you that.
It's brass. It's all brass.
So, John, clarify for me. Car companies that make cars, CEOs of companies that make cars should stay out of space, is what we're saying here.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Elon Musk is a CEO.
I'm just being the devil's advocate here. What does social media have to do in space? I mean, where social media companies should stay out of space. I'm kind of mixed on that one. I do agree. I think a lot of it comes down to antitrust, where one giant company controls too much. That's his point, and I agree with him. If it's car companies can't build tanks, airplane companies can't build ships, ship companies can't build whatever. Okay, again, I go back to what's in your wallet, not what's in your heart.
And yet we have a tire company giving the best restaurant reviews, huh? Okay.
Nice.
I like you, John. I like you.
Right? You're going to be a regular.
We're going places here.
All right, well, that's the last topic. So we'll just go around and say goodbye each, starting with John.
What are we talking about?
Saying goodbye to your new friends.
Yeah. Hey, it's been awesome. Had a great time with you guys, probably because we're all veterans. To me, it doesn't matter what political views you have. We come from a common way of life. Doesn't matter what color, what gender, religion you are. We served in the uniform, so we understand each other.
I agree. Ted, you want to go next?
I'll just add to that. I think society could learn a lot from us. I mean, there's not any of you I wouldn't come out in the street to get if you were down. We can disagree on many things, but that we're all brothers and sisters and Americans. I think we all agree on that.
Very nice sentiments. Maria, you got any more heartwarming feelings here?
Love my country, hate my government.
Everybody love everybody.
Yeah, is that warm and fuzzy for you? No, it was a really, really great one. I really enjoyed seeing Ted again, and John, having you on here. You bring something that I enjoy, and you're not. Chuck was the same exact way. It's a nice left-leaning kind of perspective that you don't get, that's not in your face and I'm right and you're wrong. It's a breath of fresh air, and I appreciate it. But no, I think we have a lot to offer. People just need to take the time and listen because they could learn a lot. It's from just your average Jane and Joe perspective, but we make up the majority of Americans, and I think we do have a lot to say, and they don't want to listen because we don't have that piece of paper or the clout or the rank for them to even give us consideration. So I appreciate this platform. Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you, Maria. That was beautiful. And to thank you, the next episode, this is episode 30, so episode 31, I'm going to schedule a public hanging to make you happy.
Right on. Woo!
He'll be a homeless guy. No one will miss him. But it'll be free.
Sadly, that is.
So no Slipknot is what you're saying.
Poor John.
Never mind.
Where do I go with this one?
All right. Well, okay.
Just
Ranger joke.
Yeah, we have terrible jokes. All right.
No,
so,
I get it. Marines are just as bad.
Oh, we should have a joke off. We can joke each other off all night.
The Circle Joke Podcast.
All right.
I'll come if there's crayons to eat,
There we go. We got our first crayon joke. All right, this is good. All right, so the show's going well. Like everybody, we're getting new people. We'll get some of our older people back once their lives are, in a place for it. Coming along, we got liberals. The other liberals are like apparently know each other, and so that's helping a lot. And more stable, and as long as I stay stable, which should be not a problem, because I don't really have a life, so I'll be making the show and delivering it to y'all. So I'm just gonna, it's a good show, so I'm just gonna get to work on it. I'm gonna edit it, I'll get it posted as soon as possible, and I'll start working on next week's. I will say that I have another show idea, which is like a game show, which is like Jeopardy, and Ted's supposed to be on it, I think, on like Tuesday, if his wife allows him. And I think you'd be a strong contestant, Ted. I think you're going to know many answers.
And even if I don't, I'll give them.
Yeah, I'm going to have that. I already got the questions written up. I tried to do it this week, but it's going to probably be on Tuesday. Right? So I'm scheduling that. So we're going to have another video, and then just keep going next week. So thanks, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next week. Good luck.
All right.
Bye.